Alright guys, random theory time. So apparently, Ash Ketchum is still supposed to be 10 years old. Now usually I don't give a shit about this narrator and just consider his real age to be ambiguously forever young. Because let's be real, if a long as heck running anime like Pokemon, that's all that's ever going to even work. But even so, usually his age in appearance at least has remained pretty logical. Even in Best Wishes, the only real change was his eyes and a lighter color palette. But then came X and Y, which was a huge change. And most of the fandom has assumed that he was like 14 or something in this saga, based on his appearance and the cinematography, and also because this was the age that we assumed Serena was, and, you know, more shipping and all that. And then came Sun and Moon, where it has been once again reiterated that he is 10 years old. Well, what the heck? So then how do we explain X and Y? Does the Sun and Moon anime take place before X and Y? Frankly, I think that would just be too complicated. Rather, perhaps Ash really has been the same age all along, but him looking younger is a combination of his change in clothing and animation art style. Maybe that has a little bit or a lot to do with it, but today I'm going to expand on that with another idea that came up in an anime style magazine. And yep, I am talking about the interview with the director about the X and Y series as a whole, and especially the last episode, you know, that one. The one that confirmed that Serena and Ash kissed, and all that stuff. Now, to be absolutely clear, this is based on something that the interviewer asked, and not on something that anyone working on the anime actually said themselves. So to my knowledge, nothing is 100% explicitly confirmed, but it is fascinating nonetheless. The basic idea is this. What if, during the X and Y series, we were seeing Ash through a distorted lens? Specifically, through the eyes of Serena. This translation of one of the interview questions shows the interviewer saying something to the effect that, from the very beginning, X and Y comes across as if we are looking at Satoshi from Serena's point of view. And he asks whose idea this was. The answer to this question doesn't seem to outright deny this notion at all either. What's unconfirmed still is the real extent of its effect on the work. What if Ash's real appearance was something in between his Best Wishes self and the Sun and Moon self? Is he really 10 years old here? In general, perhaps the X and Y series is an example of how your point of view matters a lot. The more I think about it, the more sense it makes. Especially since we saw Serena before we even saw Ash in the first episode of the X and Y series. Think back to some of Ash's more well-animated and supposedly badass moments. Some of them were pretty impressive, but as for some others, if you really think about it, they were really just dumb. And the only reason why they looked cool is because of the music and the script writing and the animation and all that jazz. But then here comes the elephant in the room. What does this mean for more shipping, and how old is Serena? We had assumed that Serena was 14 primarily because that's the age of her video game counterpart. But the anime Serena and video game Serena are completely different people. She might have looked pretty old in her old outfit, but not so much in her new design. Which, by the way, is the design that is unique to the anime and the anime alone. And the reason why I've actually always liked this new design is because I felt like that was a point where Serena was actually starting to look her age. And maybe that age is still around the same age as Ash, whatever that age is. But just for good measure, it's also entirely possible that Ash is not the only person's appearance who we are seeing through Serena's eyes. But perhaps we saw the entire Kalos region through her eyes. And that would include her own appearance. It's not a stretch to say that little girl might see herself as older than she really is. Kids are said to lie about their age to others all the time. Based on the flashback from their childhood, I'd say that as far as the koshiness of this relationship goes, they're in the clear. It's not like a 16-year-old kiss a 10-year-old. Serena's age is technically unconfirmed, but I'd say that she might be 1 or 2 years older at most. But wait, so 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds can have crushes and kiss and stuff? Well, kids do seem to be getting interested in romance at a younger and younger age these days. Personally, I blame Disney. Don't believe me? Well, one of my professors says that he has a 9-year-old who has a girlfriend and that they've even kissed once, so there's that. Apparently, kid couples are a thing now, even in Pokemon. And Fairy Tail, too.
It's been fun playing house with you. Maybe someday I could be your real wife? What?
Oh, and pretty much the same thing even happened at least once already in a filler episode of Pokemon.
Hey, Romeo.
Yeah?
When you and I get to be grown-ups and all, do you think you'd want to marry me?
Sure, why not?
Promise?
Oh!
What are you getting so embarrassed about? I was just making a joke.
As for what this means for the non-amor shipping aspect of the X and Y anime, I'd say that Serena kinda has a right to gloss it up for us a bit because they really did succeed in some pretty amazing things for whatever the heck their age is. While traveling the Kalos region, they dealt with the Malamar conspiracy, went toe-to-toe with Pokemon hunters and legendary Pokemon alike, befriended a lot of legendary Pokemon too, had a dance-off with the Kalos Queen, competed in the Kalos League, and each played a key role in saving the world from Team Flare, and etc. Next season, time to beat the crap out of Tapu Koko, for better or for worse, without the Serena goggles. Who knows if this little point of view theory will ever amount to anything in the actual anime, but it's fun to think about regardless. Let me know what you think in the comment section, and be sure to check out some of my other videos. And make sure you hit the subscribe button as well as the little bell button to stay updated on all my new videos when they come out. And you can also follow me on Twitter. And that's all for now.